students. I am going to work through the first two questions on this with you again. I know that this is a lesson that has multiple parts to it, and I want to make sure we fully understand how to go from our equation to the quadratic formula so that we can accurately solve for x. Okay? So what I want to recall is that every quadratic formula in standard form, or quadratic equation in standard form, has the same setup. It has the same structure. So our a is always the coefficient of x squared. Our b is always the coefficient of x, and our c is always the constant. Now, please remember that when we identify our a, b, and c values, we have no more x's. We're solving for x, so that x is already isolated as part of our formula. Okay? So when I look at this equation here, and I have x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0, my a value is what we have in front of x squared, our b value is what we have in front of x, and our c value is negative 12. If there is no number in this position, remember we assume that it is 1. So for each of our a and b values, we have 1. And then our c value is that negative 12. So a is 1, b is 1, and c is negative 12. Note that I bring the sign with. Okay? So now, when I am determining the opposite of b, so b is 1, so the opposite of b, change the sign on b, change the sign on your value. So instead of 1, we're going to use negative 1. Okay, so the opposite of b is negative 1. My 2a, I'm going to take that 2 and multiply it to my a value. So 2 times 1, this position then is 2. My 2a is 2. b squared minus 4ac. I want to be really cautious on this one because there are so many pieces to it. So what I'm going to do is replace the b with 1. And notice that I keep it in parentheses. That's so I remember that when I do b, the quantity b, and then squared, that I'm doing b times b, or in this case, 1 times 1. My a value is 1, and my c value is negative 12. So when I do this calculation, 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 1 is 4, and then 4 times negative 12, so let me do this over here. So 4 times 1 is 4, and then 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. So I have minus negative 48. Okay? Minus all of this. Okay? That's what I get here. So now we have a double negative. Minus a negative becomes positive. 1 plus 48 gives us a total of 49. So my b squared minus 4ac is 49. All right? Now, we have all of the components of our quadratic formula. We've got the negative b that I can replace with 1. We have our 2a, which I will use 2 in that position. And then we have our b squared minus 4ac under the square root. So now we fill in what we know. We just fill in the boxes. Okay? The next step in the process, the next complex thing we have in our formula is the square root. So we're going to take the square root of 49. What number times itself is 49? So you might recognize that we can do 7 times 7, or we can do -7 times -7. Either way, we get 7 or -7. So to encompass both of them, we're going to keep this plus minus sign here, and I can say then that the square root of 49 we're going to replace with 7. Okay, and then the -1 goes here because that has not changed yet, and our 2 goes here, that has not changed yet. So now the next complex piece is the plus minus. This means we're going to consider two different equations, -1 plus 7 divided by 2, and then -1 minus 7 divided by 2. So our -1 is that first number. Our 2 does not change, and that's the same in both sets. Then we take the plus version, so plus 7, and the minus version. So we have -1 in the same position, 7 in the same position, 2 in the same position in both equations. The only difference is a plus in the numerator or a minus in the numerator. Okay? And then we're going to simplify each fraction. Option 1 is -1 plus 7 divided by 2. And then we have option 2, which is -1 minus 7 divided by 2. So my -1 plus 7 is 6, and then divide by 2 to get 3. And then my -1 minus 7 is -8 divided by 2, and that gets me -4. So my solutions are 3 and -4. Okay? Let's look at question 2. Okay? That's my lunch.